and welcome back to another live reading of my book, The Female Economic Formula. Sorry, to reading about purpose. That's why I said that. And we are still in chapter 1, unbelievably. I think we've done, 4 or 5 live readings maybe. And the purpose of these live readings is just to give you a little bit more context and background into what I've written and why I've written it. This is my book, by the way, if you haven't spotted it yet. It is now back in stock in the UAE for the first time this year. I'm not going to go into details on what happened there because it's a very long, boring story. But if you are in the UAE, you can now jump onto Amazon and grab yourself a copy, which I, for one, am very happy about. And it's also on audiobook as well. So I'll drop some links below for the audiobook version for those of you who are into that. And why not? It is a good way of amusing yourself if you're stuck in traffic, which I often find myself. So principle 1 is commitment. We are probably like halfway through the chapter or so. So I'm just going to pick up where I left off. And interestingly, as I've opened it, the first section that I'm going to read to you is around alignment, which is kind of weird because I have spent many hours in the last week or so talking about alignment, both recording some content for the Founder Sanctuary, which launches next month. I've just literally released the packages today. So if you're not on the wait list, jump on there. But also I've hosted 4 events in the last almost as many days. So I actually don't want to talk anymore. I feel like after this, I'm going to take a vow of silence because I am quite bored of the sound of my own voice. But let's do this before I do that. So here we go, page 19, alignment. Somewhere along my long, often lonely entrepreneurial road, it dawned on me that my purpose, my doing the right thing attitude didn't always win the day, nor did it necessarily pay the bills. Whether we call ourselves a conscious business, an ethical enterprise, a mission-driven company, or an impact company, the fact is, that coming from a purely ethical perspective in a business setting will only send us down a path of frustration and heartache if we can't find a way to align purpose with profit so that the intention creates outcome. And I see this quite a lot. It works both ways. Sometimes people are super aligned to profits and outcomes and revenue and forget about the fact that for it to be sustainable, for them to get something out of it, they need to align their values with what they're doing. But with impact businesses, it's often the other way around. They're very aligned in terms of the problem they're solving, who they are, what they're trying to achieve in the world. But they forget that actually, if you can't keep the lights on, then unfortunately, your impact is going to be negligible. So profit, purpose, and passion all need to run in a straight line. And there's actually a video on this as well on my LinkedIn and Instagram, if you care to search for it. Here we go. Let me explain. I didn't start my first business purely to make money. Of course, I wanted it to succeed, but profit wasn't the reason for its existence. Quite honestly, I almost felt guilty for wanting to, given the problem I was solving. And it didn't take me long to realize this approach wasn't doing me or my end goals any favors. In fact, my attitude was holding it all back. Because the fact is that without finding enough people willing to part with money to use your solution, there can be no growth in your business, there can be no scale, and there can be no deliverance on that problem that you set out to solve. Passion, purpose, and profit all need to align. True alignment between the following 3 things is what holds the process together. Number 1, the problem you're solving. Number 2, those who will benefit from the solution. And number 3, how you're going to deliver that solution. In business terms, this is the idea of product market fit, which rarely happens straight off the bat, but is essential to the success of any venture. So bear in mind, if you want it to pay off, purpose has to pay out. And this is in bold, by the way, so very important. And we need to commit to make that work, which means leveraging your purpose in a smart, business-driven way and not giving up until we find that alignment. And that is absolutely key. And we talk quite a lot in the book about pivoting and how I've had to do that multiple times on my journey. And it is just all part of the process. So from here on, let's keep these 2 elements of purpose and business front and center. Business is purpose-driven, pretty obvious, but worth stating again. You want to make a difference, to solve a big problem. It's your reason for doing all this, and purpose will be the deciding factor around so many areas of the business and its operations. And purpose must be business-driven. It seems like a paradox, but it isn't. Purpose may be the heart of what you do, But if your business doesn't operate or function in a way people will buy into, then it's not going to help anyone or change anything. It will fade away and leave nothing but dreams and an unresolved problem behind. We have to get real about using business to fuel purpose and vice versa. These, if you like, are also the reasons I chose to write this book, to help you stay true to your course and deliver a result, to give you the roadmap I sorely lacked back in 2015, which is why the title is A Real Life Roadmap to Nailing Entrepreneurship, if you didn't know. Beginnings and foundations, a true run through. So as we set off on this journey together, I want to run through 5 key elements, a checklist of sorts, to ensure that your foundations and thought process are as solid as they can be, so that you never need to call your commitment into question. This isn't just for those of you at the start or at idea stage. These questions are fundamental to any business, and it's always good to check in wherever you are in the process of building. Your answers may surprise you. You don't need to have all the answers resolved in your mind right now, as we'll work through so many of these elements of the bigger picture throughout the book, but grab a pen and paper and get scribbling. So we now have 5 different sections we're going to go through, which actually we dive a lot deeper into in the Founders Sanctuary, because they are so fundamental. They are the kind of building blocks pretty much of any business. And these are all the very hard questions that you will have to answer, if not for yourself, for other people, for investors, for clients, for customers, for people who you interview or people who work for you. So number 1, are you clear on the problem you're solving? This is the fundamental building block to the entire success of the operation. What's the problem? Can you relate to my story above? Is there something in your life you wish you could contribute to solving, or are you already solving a problem but aren't clear about the purpose behind it that's driving you? As a purposeful founder, you're going to need to get absolutely clear about what the problem is and what your purpose would be if you were to go about resolving the problem. Here are some more questions that might help you. Number 1, what's keeping you awake at night? We all have something. It may not be a business idea, but if it is, then here's your opportunity. Is there something you don't have but wish you had, as it would help get a job done, but instead you have to constantly improvise something that doesn't yet exist? Do you see an injustice or unfairness around you that isn't being solved in an impactful way? That was definitely my initial impetus. Is there someone close to you who struggles with something that's long been ignored or just not tackled yet? That could be a community, it could be a family member, could be just something that you've come across in your work life. Is there something you've seen work elsewhere? This is a classic way of finding a business to start, another country or another workplace, particularly for expats actually, that you now don't have access to, that solves a bigger problem. Is there a skill or perspective you think you have that you think will change things and innovate for the better? Sorry, I told you I've been talking too much. There you go, just to prove it is live. Do any of these strike a chord with where you are or where you'd like to be as a founder? If something has come into focus, is it something you feel equipped to solve over a period of time? Does it conjure a feeling of frustration, opportunity, or just sheer anger in you? And honestly, I remember that feeling. It was literally what got me out of bed in the morning. Frustration, probably a bit of anger, frustration for sure, around inequality, gender inequality, lack of inclusivity, and so on, and still does to a large extent. That is the problem you want to solve. Write it down in simple and clear language. The frustration or desire you feel is the fire you need, not just to get things moving, but to keep them moving when the going gets tough. And it will. There are multiple benefits to starting, running, and growing purposeful approaches for you, those around you, and of course the world at large. But let's begin by saying that, to coin a phrase, the purposeful life chooses you rather than you choosing it. There will be something that gets under your skin so much that the second your feet hit the floor in the morning, fixing it will be all you can think about. So much so that you'll go to any lengths to do so. But that can also be its major challenge. The fire inside you is essential, absolutely, but you will also need clear thinking and cool-headed strategizing if you are going to take it further. I've just noticed there's a strategizing with a Z, not an S. Yes, that is a typo. Definitely don't want US spellings in the book. Sorry, US people, but I am English. I mentioned that things will get tough as you move forward. That's a fact, but you'll get through it if your aims are clear and your foundations are strong. Shall we just do one more bit? And then I'll shut up for a bit. Are you clear on who you're solving it for? Number 2, look at any top 10 reasons why startups fail, and you'll see product market fit at the top of most. The alignment we spoke about is off somewhere. Why is this a particular issue for purposeful businesses? Because the bigger world problems that we solve inevitably affect many people in many different ways and at multiple levels, probably varying over time and geographically as mine did. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is such a wide topic. It sits at so many levels across the world, and there are thousands of different ways to tackle it that could affect billions of people. It's not always the people who are unfairly impacted who are going to be the ones who will pay to solve it either. And that's a really key point. Who's going to pay you? And the people who are going to pay you are the people you need to create the solutions for to eventually solve the problem. It is business suicide to be generic around this. You cannot solve the problem at every level, and it will drive you crazy if you try. Yes, you need to be niche, specific, focused, zeroed in on a definable problem or set of problems, and you need to understand who is feeling the pain so acutely that they will pay to resolve it. Getting this right is business 101. I'll explain more in the second part of this book about getting your focus right. Even as I work with established founders and businesses now, I can see this as an aspect that sometimes they are very far from understanding, never mind nailing. And that is 100% true. I did a workshop yesterday and gave them a framework to help them to nail this exact problem. And not many of them managed to do it, although I did only give them 10 minutes. So, maybe they needed a bit longer. They tried to solve the problem for multiple audiences with an absolute maze of offerings. You need to be Ray Mears to navigate them. It's tempting to go wide, I know, and I did exactly that. But through these chapters, I'll help you get your parameters and criteria right, no matter how far down the track you may be. For now, the obvious question to ask is, what is the outcome you want to achieve and for whom? Okay. Another 4 pages in. It's quite slow reading the book, isn't it? I'm sure you'd be much quicker reading it yourself. Anyway, any questions, any thoughts, drop them below or ping me if you're too shy, and happy to answer them. And yeah, now fully available. Hurrah. That is a joy. And I'm going to go and watch some Netflix and not speak for a while. Have a nice evening, everyone.